Is that all right?
Daenerys Targaryen freed 200,000 slaves, lost 2 dragons, crossed an ocean, and never once begged. Then a man spoke 6 words. Not a threat, not a betrayal, just 6 words. And the woman who walked out of a funeral pyre started begging within the minute. Most people who watched this scene called it jealousy. It was something far older than that, something with a clinical name. Something that had been running underneath every throne she built and every city she burned, and you are about to see exactly where it started. 3 words, and underneath them, the whole wound. To calculate the atmospheric pressure of this room in Winterfell, we must understand what each person is carrying before a single word of this conversation is spoken. Daenerys has crossed an ocean, lost a dragon, lost Jorah Mormont, and watched the people of the North receive her as a necessary weapon rather than a queen. She arrived with fire, they tolerated her. Jon Snow has just learned he is Aegon Targaryen, heir to the Iron Throne, and the knowledge sits in him like something he cannot put down or carry forward. Between them is something that felt like love weeks ago. Now it feels like a problem neither of them has the language to solve. Daenerys needs Jon to choose her. Not the throne, not the name, not the bloodline. Her. Jon cannot give her that without taking something from the people he considers family. The room is small. The distance between them is not.
I wish you'd never told me. If I didn't know, I'd be happy right now.
She is angry at the truth itself. For existing, for arriving, for refusing to stay buried. There is a specific grief inside that sentence. The grief of a person who spent their entire life being told that their identity is destiny, suddenly confronting someone whose identity cancels hers. She does not wish the truth were different. She wishes she had never learned it. The distinction carries everything. Daenerys is confessing that her happiness required ignorance, and that confession is the first fracture in the room. Attachment hunger, the compulsive need to secure emotional validation from a specific person to the point where losing that person's exclusive attention registers as an existential threat, not merely a personal loss. Daenerys is describing a happiness that was only possible when she was the most important secret in the room. The moment Jon's parentage entered the space, she stopped being the center of the story they were telling each other. Her panic is not about the political threat. Her panic is about the loss of a witness, the one person who saw her as a woman first, a queen second.
I try to forget. Tonight I did for a while. And then I saw them gathered around you. I saw the way they looked at you.
One night of relief, one night where the fear went quiet. And then she looked across a room full of people celebrating survival, and saw them looking at Jon with something she could not manufacture by command. Not reverence, belonging. The kind of warmth a place generates for someone it considers its own. Daenerys has been looked at with reverence across 2 continents. Generals, freed slaves, blood riders. All of them gave her their devotion. None of them gave her belonging. Here in Winterfell, on the only side of the sea that was supposed to finally be hers, the belonging moved straight past her and settled on Jon Snow.
I know that look. So many people have looked at me that way, but never here. Never on this side of the sea.
6 words do the work that 6 seasons of storytelling built toward. She knows the look because she built her identity around receiving it. Every Dothraki rider who rode beneath her banner, every crowd that called her Missa, they all gave her that exact expression. She became the person who earned it through suffering and fire and forward movement. Now she watches it pour out toward a man who does not even want what it represents. Narcissistic supply collapse. The sudden withdrawal of consistent external validation that a person has unconsciously structured their entire identity around, causing the self-concept to destabilize at its foundation rather than at its surface. Jon receiving that look from Winterfell does not just threaten her political position, it threatens the story she has been telling herself since she was a girl in exile with nothing but a name and a half-remembered prophecy. She was the chosen one. She was the one people looked at that way. If Jon holds that same position now, then the story she built her survival on requires a revision she does not know how to make.
I told you I don't want it.
It doesn't matter what you want. You didn't want to be king in the North. What happens when they demand you press your claim and take what is mine?
Jon has just told her he does not want the throne. Her mind converts his refusal into evidence of danger rather than evidence of loyalty. Khal Drogo was given her like property. Daario obeyed because she commanded, never out of choice. Jorah loved her and still reported her location to King's Landing. Every man who claimed to serve her had a second calculation running underneath the declaration. Jon's refusal to want the throne should be the most reassuring thing he could offer her. Instead, it lands as the most suspicious, because she has learned through every prior relationship that what men say they want and what history pulls them toward are two completely different forces.
I don't know what else I can say.
You can say nothing to anyone ever. Never tell them who you really are.
She is asking him to erase himself, not his name on a document, not his claim in a council chamber, his self, the self that Samwell Tarly wept over when he discovered it, the self that Bran Stark tracked across decades, the self that exists regardless of whether anyone speaks it aloud. She wants Jon to become a man who carries the most significant secret in Westeros in total silence, because her position requires his silence more than it requires his love. Identity suppression demand. When one person requires another to conceal or deny their core identity as a condition of the relationship's survival, converting intimacy into a mechanism of control. Daenerys has suppressed her own fear, her own grief, her own loneliness so completely and for so long that asking someone else to suppress their identity feels like a reasonable request. She has done it to herself for years. The cruelty is not intentional, and that absence of intent makes it more precise as a portrait of how attachment hunger operates. Suppression becomes the vocabulary of love. Jon refusing to speak it becomes, in her architecture, the same thing as abandonment.
No matter how many times you bend the knee, no matter what you swear.
She is telling him that his loyalty is structurally insufficient. His submission changes nothing. She is politically correct. His bending the knee means nothing once the North knows his claim supersedes hers. But underneath the political accuracy lives something older. She was never going to feel safe here. The wound she is operating from predates Jon Snow by 2 decades. No declaration he makes inside this room can reach it. A person cannot swear their way into the interior of someone else's unhealed fear.
Knowing the truth.
Even if the truth destroys us.
She already knows the answer. She is giving him one final door and watching him refuse to walk through it in real time. When Jon says it won't, she immediately responds, it will. No argument, no elaboration, just the outcome she has already calculated. And she is right. The truth does destroy them, but the weapon is not the secret itself. The weapon is Daenerys' inability to exist in a world where the truth is known and she still has to compete for legitimacy.
I've never begged for anything, but I'm begging you.
This is the moment the performance breaks open. Daenerys Targaryen, breaker of chains, mother of dragons, the woman who walked into Khal Drogo's funeral pyre and emerged with 3 dragons, is begging. Every title she carried was a fortress wall built around the girl who was sold across the sea at 14 with nothing except a name and a prophecy. Khaleesi, Stormborn. Each name added distance between her and that girl. When she says, I'm begging you, the girl is in the room. Savior identity rupture. The collapse of a self-concept built around being the one who rescues, leads, or saves others, triggered when the person finds themselves unable to control the situation through strength and is forced into the position of the one who needs saving. Jon did not summon this. The moment did. The moment she could not command her way to safety, the 14-year-old in exile came forward, and Jon Snow, with his northern sense of what he owes the people he loves, had no architecture for holding that wound. He was not equipped. He offered her the only thing he knew how to give, honesty. And honesty, in the grammar of attachment hunger, sounds exactly like rejection.
You are my queen. Nothing will change that. And they are my family. We can live together.
Jon means every word. He is not performing loyalty. He is not managing a situation. He believes, completely, that both things can coexist. His family, her queenhood, the truth, the relationship. He is offering her a world in which neither one has to be erased. Daenerys cannot live in that world. Her attachment hunger has no provision for both. She needs to be singular. First, the primary orbit, everything else moves around. When he says, "We can live together," she hears, "You are one of several competing priorities." "We can," she says. 3 seconds of silence. Then, "I've just told you how." She turns away, not in anger, in the specific grief of a person who already sees what they are about to become. But here is what the show never told you. In George R.R. Martin's novels, Daenerys does not simply feel isolated in her marine chapters. She begins to dissociate. She dreams of Drogo. She stops being able to separate the queen she performs in the throne room from the frightened girl underneath. Martin gives her an interior monologue in which she explicitly wonders whether the dragons are the only witnesses to her real self who cannot leave, the only ones who cannot choose someone else. The show compressed this into action. It gave audiences the burning of King's Landing as a plot event. The books are constructing it as psychological inevitability. A woman whose last tether to human intimacy was severed, who retreated entirely into the one identity no one else in the world could claim. Mother of Dragons. When Jon walked out of that room in Winterfell, something in her chose fire over people. Martin has been writing toward that choice for 30 years. When someone builds their sense of security entirely around being irreplaceable to one specific person, they are constructing a dependency structure that will eventually demand the other person erase themselves to maintain it. The moment that person refuses, not cruelly but out of basic self-preservation, the one who needed them experiences it as abandonment. In boardrooms, in families, in every space where one person holds authority and needs to be needed, this pattern ends identically. The more legitimate the other person's independent existence becomes, the more threatening their independence feels. Daenerys did not lose Jon because he told Sansa. She lost him the night she realized she could not make him need her the way she needed him. The burning came later. The decision was made in this room. Daenerys Targaryen did not become what she became in King's Landing. She became it in Winterfell, in a quiet room, the night she discovered that the one person she had chosen to love was also the one person whose existence made hers feel smaller. She begged. He held firm. Something in her that had always known this was coming finally stopped arguing otherwise. Here is the question this scene leaves open. If Jon had kept the secret and told no one, would Daenerys have found another reason to break, or was she always going to arrive at fire regardless of what he chose?